So, any codec moments from you, Snake?
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the CODEC Moments podcast. I'm Ephraim Scufflegrit, joined here as hopefully always with Flash Medallion. How you doing today, sir?
Fantastic, thank you. How we going?
Pretty good, feeling a little under the weather. Other than that, I can't complain. We've definitely got a lot of new news and stuff this week, but we'll get to that. Let's see what's new going on with you in your world.
Again, nothing new. I've been working hard. Just came back from another rehearsal. That's about it. A bit under the weather. The wife's in a show. They had their first night last night. Went to see it, and so big cast party afterwards. And they went and had a pre-show party the night before that. And I'm getting old, so I can't quite do that so much. So I'm doing all right. I've had a good couple of nights.
I got my brother in town. It's like I said, I'm feeling kind of sick, but other than that, it's been a good time. We got into Rocket League. I know a bunch of people from the subreddit play it. Yeah, I had it downloaded forever, and I hadn't really given it a shot. But man, once you get the hang of it, that's a really freaking fun game.
It's a very well-made game. In fact, even on Friday night, I went into town for a few hours, came back about 3 o'clock with a mate of mine, and yeah, we just sat on the couch, did split screen Rocket League, just playing against other people online. It's absolutely fun.
And I think I've mentioned before that the whole split screen thing is such a rare thing in games today.
Mm-hmm. That's a real sad loss.
Oh, absolutely. So you want to jump into the subreddit, see what's going on there this week?
Yeah, looking at top by the week, there's one big theme here. We've got the Steam release date and the new gameplay demo, which seems to be occupying a lot of discussion, as it should.
Yeah, dude, I don't think I'm ever going to complete the game. I'm just going to be walking around in my mother base like constantly.
Yeah, I'd say let's skip the subreddit rundown and yarn about that for a while. Any jump out highlights for you out of the mother base demo?
Honestly, I think there's so much going on. I think just the scope of it really is kind of what grabbed me. I mean, and when they announced that we'd have our own mother base, I guess that was like a year and a half, 2 years ago now. There was so much discussion of everyone saying, oh, I hope we can walk around and I hope we can explore it. And I mean, we saw a video of, you can call in your chopper and ride around and just look at the thing.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm still on the fence. I've kind of downgraded expectations in terms of customizability. They showed off, setting your security up, and really that's kind of a bit of a paint by numbers situation, which I mean makes sense. It'd be incredibly demanding to be able to like SimCity your own mother base and set your traps up that way. So it's understandable, but I was kind of hanging out for that a little bit, coming up with devious concoctions of cameras and laser traps and. So it's a bit more fill in the blanks, which is fine. I'm still a good amount of things to kind of sit and wonder about while we wait for it and go, how complicated can we get? Is it going to be difficult? Are you going to be able to come across really devious arrangements? Is it going to be on that level of tactics, or is it just flavor, essentially? That's still interesting to think about, plan for.
I think I'm on the same page as you on that one. Not necessarily so much with the security, which I too was like a little let down by it. I mean, like you said, you just kind of, select where stuff goes. And, I was kind of hoping to pick a camera or a turret or something and just basically be able to place it anywhere I want on the entire base. And, I figured there'd be a cap or something. But I know a lot of people were holding out for maybe more interactive stuff with your friends online. I know there's a lot of talk on the subreddit about a movie theater. I wasn't necessarily holding out for that, but I mean, it was fun to think about, just kind of neat stuff like that. And that's kind of a sad thing about the game releasing soon too, is for almost 3 years now, people have just been having so much fun, like kind of letting their imaginations run wild.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was seriously hoping out for movie theater, but it's fun to imagine. That said, though, there's also a lot that they've been quiet about. Like, we did get a nice guided tour of Mother Base, but at the same time, they said, hey, here's Huey's little development wing. And said, but we'll leave that for you to find out about. We didn't really get shown a lot when you think about it. They did a great job of doing a very vague overview so that I think anybody can just look at it and get an idea of what the base building is about and why you're doing it. I suspect Mother Base will be a fantastic hub of Easter eggs and silly stuff.
That's the kind of stuff I just... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just trailing off. Yeah, a hub of Easter eggs, a hub of that more fun little... That Metal Gear-y stuff, which really, if you look at, say, Metal Gear Solid 4, was kind of packed into, in a small way. There are a lot of little fun things to find in the Nomad, which people had issues with. But there's a few briefings where you ride around, you collect camouflages by running into people, you pick up items, little things like that, and little jokes going on in the background with the characters or what Sunny's up to and all that kind of thing. PlayStation on the bench. That seems like a kind of kernel of the idea of what I'm hoping Mother Base will be. It's like, yeah, it's not only a hub for gameplay, but a hub for all that cool little side stuff and Easter eggs and jokes and that kind of thing. It looks like there'll be a lot of fun to be had.
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, the stuff on the Nomad, I mean, there's even, you said little references and stuff, the universe and fourth wall breaking stuff. I remember there was the chickens that you could go up to, and they were named Solid, Liquid, and Solidus. And I mean, even in the gameplay trailer, we saw a little bit of some of that fun Metal Gear stuff where if you haven't taken a shower for a while, you get off and all of your soldiers are disgusted by you, and Ocelot, will dunk you down with a tub of water.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to see. And there's still questions. They said you can invite your friends to your Mother Base to explore it. Like, I think there's the assumption out there that you'll be able to have them with you and run around. But the more I think about it and how not co-op they're going with it, I actually expect you'll just be allowed, your friends will be allowed to come over and check out whatever at your own pace. Like, not with you with them. Seems like what it will be.
Yeah, I think I can see that.
A bit of a buzzkill, but really, like, to say I can go and check out your Mother Base or your FOB anytime I want. You won't be there. So that if I come to defend, if I want to defend your FOB one day, I've kind of got a bit of a home field advantage by knowing the layout, things like that. And or if I want to attack your FOB, I've just been inspecting the defenses, as Waylander put it, I believe.
Animal Crossing Mother Base Edition.
Yeah, with Tom Ocelot Nook.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, I'm definitely really excited for it. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I can definitely see myself just losing myself for hours just walking around aimlessly. Because I mean, in open world games like that, that's one of the things I really enjoy, is just kind of walking around and not even really having a goal or looking for anything, just farting around aimlessly.
Yeah, I enjoyed was never a Dragon Age player, but I love Dragon Age Inquisition, and the Skyhold in that is very, very similar conceptually to what Mother Base is. I don't want to give away too much because the way it comes about is quite cool, but eventually it's not as in-depth as Mother Base. Like, you build it and you expand it and you can do all these things to customize it aesthetically, and you can also make choices like, do you want to build a library or a mage's tower, and that it's more lore based, and each has a kind of little perk that the other one doesn't. So Mother Base seems like that, but possibly scaled up a little bit. And it's just wandering around, hey, this is my kingdom, this is my base, this is my fortress, seeing what's going on. Hopefully there is a lot of that, running into little NPCs and the funny conversations. And I don't know how RPGing we're getting at. Like, would it be weird to expect to go and stumble upon, like, I'm going to say quest here, but I say unlock side ops by experiencing things on your Mother Base? It's very RPG. But
so long as we don't get stuff like you're going up to a random soldier, eavesdropping on a conversation, and boss, I've lost my toothbrush. You need to scour the Mother Base to find my toothbrush.
If there were 3 of those, I wouldn't mind. But I'm thinking more like, say you stumble across a couple of soldiers who are talking about who knows what. They say they saw something, and when I was on patrol in the mountains and I saw a strange thing in a cave, and then you kind of get a side op on your map that's kind of roughly centered around where he was talking about, so that you can go in for that side op and start looking for the cave he was talking about, and then maybe it's got, I don't know, a special beer in it that you can filter. That kind of thing. I'm just completely spitballing here, but that's the kind of thing that could be fun to do from Mother Base.
Ooh, that could be a fun thing. That would be fun to do a little like retaliation runs and stuff too. You could go up to them and they could say, "Oh yeah, like this squad holed up in this base. They shot on us when we were on patrol or whatever." And then you can hop in your chopper, like, "All right, let's go fuck them up then."
Yeah. Okay, I like your idea way better. I was expecting to see more in the way of menus. Maybe that's because I'm just a OCD junkie, but when I heard Mother Base demo, I was hoping to get a really cool walkthrough of all the menus, all the development, all the options, and we got that guided tour instead, which is fine. It's not a complaint. For me, I still have a menu to dive into and start exploring and finding everything out about, which is fun.
I was actually kind of hoping for more about the companion app and what that would be doing with Mother Base.
Yeah, I've seen some posts that say, hey, companion app leaked, here are some screenshots. But They look very similar to that original Kyle Cooper concept artwork. And it's strange because his artwork, his mock-up that he did of like the companion app or the maps or whatever it was, is so different in tone from everything else that we've seen.
I agree.
So until I hear further, the people with that image, that surely has to be one of his concept images because it looks so strange. It doesn't seem to fit the iDroid UI at all. So, well, I guess we'll wait to see on that. But we know they're doing it. They've said they're doing it. It would be a weird thing to go and develop the Ground Zeroes and then just kind of conveniently forget about for the Phantom Pain. So I don't think there's much to worry about there.
Oh no, I definitely think it will be there. I was really hoping to see, like, I thought this was definitely going to be like the big drop for it, but I agree that the leaked ones probably aren't, because I mean all the menus seem the same from Ground Zeroes. I would expect the companion app to probably look pretty similar.
Yeah, not too much. Maybe a few different logos, and there you go. Yeah, and the companion app's an interesting one because again, there's so much scope for what we can possibly hope to see. Like, I'd love to be able to manage Mother Base from my app. So even if building time gets frozen, like in game, it says this is going to be done in 35 minutes. If I go to work and come back in 8 hours, that won't have ticked over. But I'd like to be able to maximize my staff or something. Just have a browse through. Maybe I rescue a truckload of guys and then go to bed and then go to work the next morning and then check my Mother Base and actually have a look at them and go, okay, this guy should be here, this guy should be there. That would be cool. But who knows? Change color scheme for your Mother Base while you're at work. Or I keep saying while I'm at work. I seem like a terrible person. While I'm stuck at rehearsal waiting for my come on, or when I'm at the library or whatever it is I do.
Let's be real. You're probably going to open it up when you're taking a poop.
Yeah. Time to Mother Base.
That will be the most productive shitter ever.
Invasion gameplay.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, actually. I'm really excited about that. All of the traps and stuff seem really cool. I hope that all the little tactics and stuff that we saw, with the Fulton, with him riding the container, I thought was pretty cool. And it was just a trap to get him into the little sleep gas filled room. I thought all that was incredible, and the cardboard box, but I hope that those are how would you say that? Tactically advantageous things to do rather than just, shoot the guy.
Gimmicks. I think that's what the gimmicky stuff comes down to in Metal Gear Online, because all of those things were present in MGO2. There's sleep gas mines and claymores and C4s, and they're actually very, very rare that you get someone trying to do, an elaborate box bruise on you. Where it shines in Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Online is they are options. And so there's every now and again you just get this genius moment when you realize, oh, this is the perfect time to get into my cardboard box or whatever's going on situationally. It's often so rare, but what's great about Metal Gear Solid is that option is there. Like, how many times a Solid Snake do you ever really need to do that ground choke thing? You know, the one when you grab them and then grab them down and then push them over on and choke them out there. Like, you never need to do it, but in that one moment in Metal Gear Online when you're choking a guy out and someone's coming past and you need to get low, you can do that. That's where those moments really shine, and Metal Gear Online's kind of like that. You might have a stun box with you, and you might never use it ever, but the one moment when you realize he's going to come looking for this box and I can leave a box there, that's when the other player goes, you bastard.
So satisfying. Yeah. I was pretty blown away by the whole game. I mean, the FOB is huge. Because, I mean, it took the defender a hot minute to find the intruder, which I also thought was really cool. I mean, it looked like it was little mini Ground Zeroes going on.
Understanding, and this isn't from anything this is just from reading between the lines, it seems like an FOB is essentially a Mother Base clone. I am expecting, or it seems to me, that you could build your FOB up to be the same size as Mother Base. It's essentially another Mother Base that you can put in whatever fashion you like. Is what it seems like to me. So that could lead to some really intense late game infiltration missions.
I'm wondering about the kind of gear you can take with you that you've developed from other, because I mean, obviously you can't, or I hope you can't use stealth camo once you've unlocked that.
Yeah, that's what it said there's an item description in the prototype stealth can't be used on an FOB mission.
I didn't catch that little thing.
Which is kind of disappointing, actually. No, actually, I changed my mind because I was assuming there's always a defender. Like, a smart human player will see past stealth camo if you're not very good at it. But the problem is when you go and raid someone else's base, when they're not there and all they've got is AI guards, stealth camo becomes very, very effective against the computer, as I'm sure we are all aware. So that makes sense. The Jehudi grab, that seems to be legit. Teleport a guard towards you or whatever it is. Or prisoner, that seems to be on the cards. So, hey, they're going to let us have a bit of fun with it, I think.
That might have been the highlight for me, seeing the little Zone of the Enders reference and have it pulled off so well, too. That's a tool that I'm very much looking forward to using. That was cool.
Yeah, this makes up for some interesting gameplay. I can imagine even in like full-on alerts, being able to drag a guard over into CQC could really shake up a tense situation. I quite like it.
I'm looking forward to having reflex mode on and seeing that done in slow motion.
Ah, the montages. That are grand.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of YouTubers are going to have a lot of fun with this game.
Yeah, I am. Even all three of my subscribers are in for a treat. Yeah, that's good. Shall we move on to our next weird topic that's kind of come out of nowhere?
Yeah, I was actually kind of trying to think of a way to segue into this and thought of the mansion or whatever it was, the villa that you could do in Assassin's Creed 2. It kind of reminded me of like a little mini mother base. But yeah, this topic did kind of come out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah, so for those who haven't realized where we're going yet, we both just agreed spontaneously we wanted to talk about Assassin's Creed because I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan, and it turns out so are you. Is that right?
Absolutely. Or I was. I'm more of a former huge Assassin's Creed fan at this point.
It's a real shame how that went out. It's hard to give the whole story without including some speculation, but essentially what happened is, I don't get the name wrong, Patrice Desilets, something like that, was the kind of the visionary behind Assassin's Creed, the first Assassin's Creed, and then make this game, and the first one did quite well despite some very vocal complaints, and I'm going to go back to that too. And then they made Assassin's Creed 2 and then really revamped it, threw a bit of the baby out with the bathwater at the same time, and then that became a big blockbustery style appeal, and then Ubisoft realized that it was a cash cow. And instead of doing what I believe was originally planned to be a trilogy, they decided to reuse some assets, make another game, annualize it.
You're absolutely correct. It was the third one was originally going to be all modern day, from what I remember reading.
See, I believe that to be the case based on reading between the lines again, paying attention to what was going on. I believe that's true. I've never seen anything to kind of confirm it or suggest it. I think if you pay attention to the game, the first two games as they are, you can see that thread line being developed. It would have been obvious that the final game would be Desmond in the modern day. I believe that very strongly, but I have never seen it confirmed or quoted or even discussed in any kind of official capacity.
I think you're right about that. I don't think anyone has ever, I imagine there's a gag order on the whole ordeal with him leaving.
Yeah, hard. I don't know if you can gag someone on general creative development, but maybe he's just being a professional. But the story takes a darker turn. So he left, I believe, or his contract ended or something, Ubisoft.
Mm-hmm.
And after he made the third game, which became Brotherhood, which was still very, very good despite its limitations, its creative limitations, i.e. more Italy, more Ezio, don't shake it up. And then he went off to the new Montreal studio that THQ developed. And there he began working on his dream game, like what Assassin's Creed probably was going to be or turn into. Started on that, and then Ubisoft bought the studio and then shelved his game, and he got fired again not long later. So he lost his property a second time, which I can't even imagine how shit that would feel.
Nah, that's got to be rage-inducing.
Yeah, and so now he's started his own publisher, and they're working on Ancestors, which we know nothing about really other than it exists, and it's got a similar kind of historical conceit to Assassin's Creed and the other game.
And it's such a shame too, because I mean, we've all talked about Metal Gear Solid 2 and how fourth wall breaking that is. I think Assassin's Creed in its original capacity was really the only thing that stands out to me as something fourth wall breaking, is that because Desmond is the everyday everyman. There's nothing spectacular about Desmond at the beginning of this series. He's just a bartender who ran away from home, more or less. And so anyone can be Desmond. Anyone can put yourself in their shoes. And the basis of the game, for those who don't know, is they're trying to get these ancient artifacts and they have to figure out where they are. But the history of these things is buried in time. And they have this machine that they can put you in. They put the main character Desmond in it, and through your DNA, they can now explore your ancestors' memories. And so when you're playing the actual gameplay of the game, you're playing as one of Desmond's ancestors. And so it's really, really, really easy to implant you yourself as the player onto whoever the ancestor is, because essentially Desmond is playing a video game through the Animus, which is the machine that they put him into.
That's right. And I think, for my money, it's probably one of the most high concept mainstream games released probably ever. That's a pretty, I'm not going to say provocative, but starting to play with those conceits. And a lot of people joke about how they can hand wave so much stuff, and they can say, "Oh, why can't my character swim?" It's like, well, the Animus is still in like version 1 and it can't handle swimming. Little things like that are quite funny. So the overall conceit of the first game is that this technology still needs perfecting, and you can't immediately jump to any memory, especially if it's traumatic or stressful. So they want to get to, and you don't know at the start what it is. The people who are using them to test want to get to a very specific memory of his ancestor who experienced something, and they realize that they can't actually jump straight to it, and they try that at the very start of the game, and everything turns to shit. So instead they have to leap further back in time, essentially, to a point where they can lock into, and then Desmond has to work his way chronologically through his memories, which gives us the perfect framing for making a traditional video game story. We get to experience this chapter of history as a narrative. The extra narrative, this technology, demands that we experience this narrative flow of events. So there's a lot of really interesting playing with, hey, what is a video game and what tropes do we demand of our video games, which is very, 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 very interesting. And all the writing as well is a whole other side, which we'd probably be in a lot of trouble. We'd be here for hours talking about just what the basic plot and setup is about all these artifacts and things. I'll leave that part out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, the one of the most brilliant things truly is just the explanations that they give you. I mean, they thought of everything.
Yeah. I guess it was also quite provocative in that it was relatively post 9/11, the game, and it was set with you playing as ostensibly a Muslim in the middle of the Crusades. This is right back at the time when basically America was on its crusade in the Middle East after 9/11. So that's a touchy, ballsy subject. I think that is partially what gave birth to the infamous opening text of this game was made by a multicultural team of many different faiths and religions. So that's probably not it perfectly, but something similar. And they've had that disclaimer there every time, even though it's become increasingly obvious that this game was made by a committee of middle-aged white men in suits. But so that's the thing that started there.
I thought it was extremely ballsy for them. They're one of the first major pop culture things I've ever seen take their story with, oh yeah, the whole Bible thing, that's a total lie. God's not really a thing. It's like this is the real origin of the species.
Yeah. And they take a while to get to that, but the way they do it, they tease it beautifully, and that brings me into something I wanted to talk about as well. Assassin's Creed 2, in my opinion, has the most artistic puzzle design in the entire medium, and I include that above, not above, but I'll put it right up there with something like Portal. So a quick rundown of this is, you, for reasons that don't matter for the purpose of discussion, you are trying to uncover what is the game calls the truth. That's what it's called. You're trying to uncover the truth, and you're doing this by finding these little messages that have been left behind inside the game world, because it is a game world. It's still existing on a server in the story. You're a guy playing a thing, and another character has, it doesn't matter either, we'll leave that part alone. Another character has left messages for you scattered around inside the code of the Animus that's being generated from your ancestral memories. And what you get is, second game set in Renaissance Italy, and the games talk a lot about society at the time, how power was working, things like that. And so what you get is a lot of historical artwork. Every clue, amongst other things, features, it gives you a stanza or some words, like a poem, and then it gives you, I think, like 12 Renaissance artworks or ancient paintings, and you have to solve the clue by picking the right ones. You've got to pick 5 out of however many there are, I think 12. So A, brute forcing is almost out of the question. You actually have to work it out. And 2, when you solve the puzzle, by doing so, you need to work out what the secret is. And that secret is a real world, a secret of the law itself. So by solving the puzzle and putting the puzzle together, you are actually solving the truth and uncovering it by looking at patterns throughout history, understanding the subtext of how symbols work in, artwork. So you're doing what the game is talking about the whole time. It's asking you to go, hey, think twice about how stories are told to you, about how truth can be hidden in art, and things like that. As an example, you might get a line about somebody using a sword to cut through their problems. So there's kind of a bit of a Alexander the Great reference. And then you might realize that 5 of the paintings all have swords in them. So it might be is it Theseus with a sword, or a historical character like Alexander the Great and Joan of Arc holding a sword. And you realize these 5 characters were holding swords. Some of them are historical, some of them are mythological from various religions and mythologies. You put all 5 together and you realize, hey, they all had swords. And then you get a little extra bit of information that the sword is one of these great artifacts in the game. And so by solving that problem, you come to the conclusion yourself that all of these historical and mythological characters were real, and they are real and now powerful because they had this magic sword that's passed through history. And then you get similar things with like a staff or other artifacts. So you're actually kind of solving the history of the world, which the game hasn't told you yet. You're putting it together yourself. And when you get all of them, you get unlock a little video that gives you the real truth, as you were saying. So that was a bit of a rant, but I absolutely adore that. That's some very artistic puzzle design.
And I think I missed that. That's probably one of the biggest reasons I don't really buy Assassin's Creed games anymore, is that the truth has kind of been uncovered, I guess, because I mean the first handful of games, mainly the Ezio games, were leading up to the moment of uncovering, this grand, I don't even know the word for it, like you said, the truth, the origin of the species. Where did mankind come from? Why do we exist? Yada yada yada. And now that it's been uncovered in the Ezio games and the one Connor game, there's not really, I mean, they've just completely abandoned that to me. I mean, there's hardly any modern day story in it anymore. And it's almost like they've forgotten that there's this ancient deity type thing, like hell-bent on the destruction of mankind ever since Assassin's Creed 3. And they just kind of ignore it now. But I mean, what you described.
Well, yeah, they try to solve it. They realize they don't know what to do with it. So they ignore it and then they undo it. And they kind of go back to it. They finally use it as a launching point for kind of maybe a new cohesive modern story. And they did that in Black Flag. And then as soon as Unity came out, they just threw it under a bus and said, no, we're going somewhere else now. Forget all that stuff.
They completely dropped it.
So clearly, I mean, this is just a game made by a bunch of programmers now and marketing men, which is a great loss. And the reason I brought that up before is that it seems like Patrice Désilets in the early days of Assassin's Creed were, in my mind, something to rival Metal Gear Solid. There was some very interesting and thoughtful things being said by the game as a game, not just in its story and things like that.
Absolutely.
And we kind of lost that to corporate meddling, which is a very big shame.
Absolutely. I mean, there's such like a deep lesson to be learned in the early Assassin's Creed games. Don't believe everything the government tells you. Don't believe anything anyone tells you. Investigate for yourself, make your own destiny. And I mean, like you said, it's just like now the only real underlying thing in the story now, or lesson or message in the new games, is just, don't be a bad guy. Bad guys suck. Bad guys will die.
I think the only overarching message left is, man, complex politics sure are in shades of grey. That's as far as they go. Wow, sometimes bad guys can be good, or sometimes nice people want to do bad things, or maybe it's not so bad after all. It's like, this is as far as they're going. They're not even bothering with even though they look like they were trying to do stuff with Unity, all they care about now is going, boy, these Assassins and Templars sure are complicated.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really the only, like, I'll visit the subreddit from time to time, and that's really the only praise I see the game get is, oh, I love how Assassin's Creed really blurs the lines, and no bad guy is truly a bad guy, and that's why I hated the old games. The Templars were just so evil, and Desmond was such a boring bastard that I never wanted to play the fucking thing.
Yeah, and that's probably, I should probably just drop in here that I'm actually moderating the other subreddit as well, but mostly I just check the spam queue and stuff, because I can't really participate anymore, because A, nobody wants to hear about how great the old games were, and B, I'm not going to buy Syndicate. I'll stay on because it's probably useful to them to have a moderator who doesn't care about spoilers. I can do some hard yards for them when they get their release date come out. So that's the thing. Yeah, and as you were saying, people who go, oh, back then it was sucks and it was so obviously good and bad, like, that's forgetting the entire twist of the first game, that the head of the Assassins, the guy who kicked it all off, was a Templar who's secretly trying to get some power in his own order. Like, that's brilliant. The enemies of the Templars were started off by a guy who's just trying to knock out his rivals.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. Like the whole nothing is true, nothing is forbidden, everything is whatever. I should know that, but I don't.
Well, you probably forgot because they
Nothing is
haven't
true.
even said the damn thing
Yeah.
since Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah, and it's a really tacit acknowledgement quite early on, and people can wax philosophical about it, but it's a really specific acknowledgement about in these assassins that there are no perfect answers. You can't come up with a perfect solution to anything that isn't going to be hypocritical on some level. Why do you get to decide these rules for other people? How do you allow absolute freedom when that actually results in people losing their rights? So it acknowledges from the get-go that there are no perfect solutions to our problems. I just find it incredibly depressing that a game like Assassin's Creed 2, and especially Brotherhood, but those two games, Brotherhood more so, was such a pretty brutal and at times ballsy takedown on the whole 1% equality economic thing. And they're incredibly timely. One thing Assassin's Creed has always been is quite timely. The first one, pretty post 9/11. Let's do a game out the Crusades. Assassin's Creed 2 came out just as the income equality 99% thing showed up. So they give us a nobleman who is using economic systems kind of for the benefit of the people. He spends his money where he doesn't have to build a blacksmith and create jobs and create a functioning society, even though that directly benefits him for his goals. We kind of leave that part out. And then in Brotherhood, we're at the height of Occupy Wall Street, and they pretty much directly, through the game's fantasy, directly interrogate the history of American commerce and point to guys like Henry Ford as being an evil, one of the bad guy, evil corporate oligarchs who used his powers they've given up on slavery. And this is like directly plot here. The Templars have decided that slavery doesn't really work anymore. Instead, they'll just use capitalism because it gets the job done. Like it just turns people into wage slaves. That's a pretty fucking ballsy thing to put in a little video game about stabbing guys in the neck. They take a living justice of the Supreme Court, Anton Scalia, and one of the secret puzzles ends up saying that he's a Templar and he's in on it. Like this guy was alive at the time. He was. I think he still is in the Supreme Court. Anton, I'm gonna look him up. And the game goes and says, "Oh wow, you solved the puzzle. By the way, this guy's a Templar." Who at the time they were associating with like the powerful families of Rome, the Borgias, who just had an economic dynasty where they ruled the damn country for personal gain. That's a fucking ballsy thing to do.
I think Bush came up
86
at some point, didn't he? Like, wasn't Bush an assassin or a Templar or something? I'm gonna look that up.
Yes, it was very subtle. I did it by they just had his initials or something, GB, something about the war in Iraq. I'm positive it was that. Or Afghanistan. So the other fun thing about Assassin's Creed is who it casts in history as being in the secret war between Assassins and Templars. And so you get, what was I?
Oh, here it is.
Hitler was a Templar, but so were the Americans. Was it Roosevelt? And so was Churchill. World War II was a bit of a setup. Meanwhile, your assassins tend to be the artists of history. Your Da Vinci's, Dante Alighieri, Marco Polo, your creatives, your free spirits tend to fall on the side of the assassins, which is, it's a little kind of on the nose, but it's interesting to see who lands where.
I thought so too, and I think that's maybe one of my favorite things about Assassin's Creed is how it leaves history intact but rewrites it a little bit, not unlike Metal Gear Solid 3 by any means with all the 1964 stuff. I do miss that from, because I didn't really get much of that Black Flag, which is the last one that I played. But I mean, in the other games, you get Da Vinci's an assassin. He's actually with you. You get all the Abraham Lincoln stuff. You get all these, like you said, I mean, it's ballsy statements that they're making that all these historical figures and current and alive are, assassins and Templars and what have you. But it's so much fun when you're actively participating in it. Like Cesare de Borgia, who was killed in Brotherhood, I looked him up after I played the game, after you killed him, because I was thinking, it can't say in the history books that Ezio Auditore killed Cesare de Borgia. And then I looked it up and it's just, he randomly died in battle by some unknown soldier or something. And I thought that was really
exactly cool. Yeah, and the first Assassin's Creed does it very well too. All your 9 targets are all influential people who died around that time. And some of their deaths are unknown, and say some guy actually was poisoned, and then they go and insert you as a player character into the secret history. And it's another thing they failed really badly on maintaining. They misread the popularity of that and thought, people like seeing historical characters. So then Assassin's Creed 3 turns into, Connor bumped shoulders with Benjamin Franklin, and then Connor met George Washington, and then Connor met, and it's like, fuck off.
Yeah. It was like a fucking
did-
kid's book. Like, see,
It was
see
even
Connor,
yeah.
shake hands. See Connor walk down the street. There's Paul Revere on his horse. Can you say hi to Paul Revere on his horse, Connor?
Oh, Paul Revere needs help warning people the English are coming. That's a historical event. And then Unity got even worse, where they had detective missions where you have to go and solve crimes, and they weren't
Jesus
that
Christ.
bad. But the problem was those were pretty much they just packed all the historical characters into those. So like you just start bumping shoulders with someone famous because a crime happened to them, and that someone broke into I can't even remember any famous French people. Someone broke into this guy's house as a part of a crime, and it was just so by the numbers. Whereas it used to be interesting. It used to be, like a secret history, not like, the history books never recorded that whatever his name is, Arno ran into some guy in a coffee shop because no one cares about that. But when some Arab dude died of poisoning in his bathroom as a historical fact, and then it kind of turns out he was your target, or this guy went missing and no one knows what happened to him, and then he's your target. That stuff is interesting.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. It used to be, like I brought up earlier, Cesare de Borgia. Now, like in Assassin's Creed 3, it's Charles Lee. The whole game is just Connor screaming, "Where's Charles Lee?" Which I don't even know if that's an actual historical person.
Who's that? Charles Lee?
Yeah.
Or
The guy that Connor was after the whole time.
Oh, right. I thought you mean there's an actual historical person of a guy who walked around America saying, "Where is Charles Lee?"
Oh, yeah, it was Connor. Assassin's Creed's so great at inserting those people into history.
Anyway, do you think we're talking too much about Assassin's Creed on a Metal Gear Solid podcast?
Yes, let's all go ahead and move on.
Yeah. Although I will say, while we're just on the topic, Metal Gear Solid nicely avoids all that. You get a very personal story about, like, say, Big Boss and the history. Whatever's going on with him at the time is just kind of influenced and folded into current events. To put it bluntly, Big Boss didn't bump into Che Guevara while he was in Bolivia. They could have gone that direction. A much lesser game designer, writer could have done that, but instead they'd make those parallels and ties in a different way.
And I greatly respect that, too. I really like seeing references and thematic things in basically any kind of media, whether it be television, video games, movies, whatever. I'd love references.
Oh, there is one thing, though, that is always funny when I think about it. The opening of Snake Eater, which everyone goes, Snake Eater is great because I don't have to sit through boring cutscenes, but they get two voice actors to play President Johnson and bloody Khrushchev sitting down having a yarn over the telephone, and it feels like 15 minutes long going, "Do you remember that bomb? Yes. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, Mr. Director, that is the slowest, most awkwardly awful bloody cutscene. I don't think I've listened to it in years.
Yes, I hear you, Mr. Chairman.
A few days ago, one of our country's main design bureaus, OKB75, may be left with no choice but to order the military to maximum.
I should have contacted the boss.
The boss?
2 miniature nuclear shells along.
It's your nuclear shells.
I'm afraid so. I believe they were Crockett Atomic Battle Group deliveries. They were mass-produced. They've never been. My deepest condolences over. That's correct. We were not involved in any way. Don't know what else to tell. Our government had nothing to do. About a little coaction. What is that supposed to be? Attack on.
I mean, you're right. They talk really slow, and there's gigantic pauses, and the opening thing is, "Can you hear me?" "Yes, I can hear you."
Wait, is somebody vacuuming in the background? Oh, yes, that is my wife. That's the kind of conversation it feels like. And for some reason, it's the US president and the premier of Russia. Like, they just feature two full-on historical characters there. Very weird.
I can't stop. Now I can't stop thinking about all of, like, it's almost as bad as Snakes repeating throughout the whole game. It's like, did you know a soldier defected to your country a week ago? No, I didn't. What soldier? Oh, it was the soldier that was really good in World War II. Oh, that soldier.
Yeah. Right. For a bit of our rambling edition podcast, would you like to introduce the topic?
Yeah, let's go for it. We were talking in line chat the other day that it might be a good idea to bring up some of the differences between the Solid Snake and Big Boss sagas.
Yeah, I don't think we agree it would be a good idea, but I think we agree it would be fun. This is one of those endless, who do you think is better, Big Boss or Solid Snake lol posts that always pops up, and everybody goes back and forward. And I mean, the comment I made at the time is like, who is better is a pretty meaningless question for me, but I find the differences between them, the things that they've been written to be different about and things that are similar are interesting and revealing.
Who would you say has the most interesting story out of the two of them?
Oh, as a narrative, yeah,
Right.
Big Boss. Big Boss has a story. Solid Snake doesn't. He fits into other people's broader stories. He doesn't have goals. He doesn't have personal goals. Not that we see them. He's there because he gets given objectives. That's his life. That's what he was genetically engineered to do, is to be given orders and take them. That's all he does. So yeah, as a narrative, I find Big Boss more interesting, hands down, like no question. But I find Solid Snake more interesting as a person, as a character, because there's so little of his character that we get to see.
I can definitely get on board with that. I mean, what really grabs me is the differences in how the characters are developed. And I mean, granted, I acknowledge that Solid Snake doesn't develop that much, but I think it's interesting the way that he doesn't, because with Big Boss, it looks like we're getting the Walter White, Anakin Skywalker to the Heisenberg and Darth Vader story with him. And it does seem like a progressive thing where I think Solid Snake is different from game to game a little bit, but I think his changes aren't necessarily from a characterization standpoint. I see him changing to kind of fit the themes of each game. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1 was more or less just a Japanese take on James Bond, Splinter Cell type stuff, Tom Clancy, yada, yada, yada. And that's what Solid Snake was. And then in Metal Gear Solid 2, which the themes were all about questioning what's been told to you and making your own destiny, that's what Solid Snake was all of a sudden about in that game. And that's what his character was. And then Metal Gear Solid 4, it's all about cycles and mimetic memories being passed on, and Kojima, or I guess the series getting old, however you want to look at it. And then that's what Solid Snake was in that game. So I feel like he never even really was his own character. He just kind of is the character of whatever theme that game is trying to deliver.
I think that's a cool way to look at it. Yeah, I see what you mean about him being different. I think we get a different picture, a different angle on him every time. That's not to say he's not portrayed consistently, but we see a different slice of Solid Snake in those three main titles. And in the first one, he's not much of a character. He has character traits. He has character traits in that we know he's badass, and he's always kind of got a couple of zingers and one-liners, and he's not exactly, he's not argumentative. No matter what people are throwing at him, he eventually goes, okay, I'll get it done. Or people go, oh, it's going to be dangerous. He goes, yeah, it will be dangerous, but we'll find a way. I will do it.
It'll be dangerous, and it'll be cool, and I'll smoke cigarettes the whole time because I'm a badass.
So he's a bit of a cipher for most of the game, and then he begins to open up a little bit near the end, especially in the torture sequence. He begins to kind of actually talk about things in his past and how they made him feel and that kind of thing. And he brings the player in to share his headspace a little bit more, but never any time do we lose his attitude of, I will complete this mission. Like, even when the colonel's lying to him and all this shit's happening, he is the guy who completes the mission. He will continue to try and continue to persevere and continue to select continue until you get to the end, because that's what the game is. Because that's how the gamer plays the game. They will keep going until they've finished it. So Solid Snake as a character reflects that quite a lot in what little slice of characterization we see. He's genetically engineered to finish the game.
Speaking of, that's the way the player plays the game, is that they'll blindly follow orders no matter what, because there is no other option. I found it really funny. This was probably month and a half, 2 months ago now, where there was a post where I think it was a newcomer to the subreddit jumped on there and was making his little intro and said, oh yeah, when I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2, when the colonel told me to turn off the game console, I hadn't saved in forever, and I did nothing else but turn the game console off because that's what the colonel said to do. And then the whole friggin' thread was filled with people. Yeah, that's what I did too. I lost like days of progress.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate thing to admit to, and I will say it crossed my mind. The first time it happened to me too, I was like, oh, cool, maybe there's some trick here. Like some cool things happening. And I was like, no, hang on a minute, this makes no sense.
This
Like,
can't be a thing.
I'm not turning my game console off. Like, come on, let's just stick to reality here. So, but I can totally understand people who are being sucked in so at that point, and he's so into it, and you just take advice from the Colonel, he's just like this ultimate super ego figure. He's the ultimate authority symbol. He's just this calm, controlling, in the know voice who will give you information, and he'll look things up for you, and he'll tell you what to do next if you're stuck. The Colonel is just that paternal guiding voice behind you constantly. And in Metal Gear Solid 1, that is played as a character thing, and Metal Gear Solid 2 capitalizes that because you as the player are familiar with that voice and that character, even though really it doesn't mean anything to Raiden.
Exactly. You've been conditioned for it, ever since day one of being a Metal Gear Solid fan. That's what you've been taught to do.
Yeah, and then even Metal Gear Solid 4 does the same thing, and not many people notice it. The Patriots need Solid Snake to go and take down Liquid Snake because he started his insurrection again. And so what do? They get good old Roy Campbell to go and make a personal appeal to Solid Snake. Like, haven't we seen that happen before? I suspect Snake is pretty aware of what's going on, and he talks about it with Muriel. I'm not out here to save the world here. This is a hide hit. I've just been asked to go and take this guy down, and that's what I'm doing. Again, he's just bred to follow objectives. And we find out, hey, the Colonel's daughter has been moved into some incredibly highly dangerous environment where like the last 5 teams who are investigating PMCs have gone missing, and now Muriel's been sent in there. That should be ringing some bells again, because we've been through that before in Shadow Moses as well. We kind of fall for it again. I'm not a Colonel anymore, Snake. I've heard that one before. He just does the same thing, which is pretty cool. I like that.
Me too. And what I think is interesting about that is that gameplay-wise and progression-wise, Big Boss does more or less the same thing. The player is forced to listen to Cos or whoever it is, to complete the objectives. But with Big Boss, because of the character that he is, it doesn't feel like you're just on a track or following orders. And, Phantom Pain's obviously going to give us a lot more freedom, but you really do feel like you're in charge of the army when you play as Big Boss, at least in Peace Walker.
Yeah, and you've got little Kaz in your ear who's back home taking care of the base. And you're like, hey, I'm out here, like, I'm in the shit, man. I've got missions to do. And he's like, hey, boss, I think we should make our army even bigger. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, hey, boss, I think we should build a support unit because we're going to need, like, logistics. And he's like, good idea, Kaz. I'm just going to go and do some more missions because I love this shit. And he goes, hey, boss, we've captured some vehicles. I'm thinking we should build a vehicle hangar so we've got, like, a mobile artillery unit. And they're like, you're seriously turning into a heavy military force here. And Kaz's like, let's do it. Boss like, oh yeah, I'm down with that. Hey boss, I'm thinking we recover a nuke and become a nuclear state. Big Boss goes, ooh, let me think about it. And then 5 seconds later goes, you know what? That is a good idea. Let's go for it. And then of course it turns out that the whole plan all along was for Cypher to use Kaz to do exactly that with Big Boss. But it's nice that it doesn't come from that Colonel Campbell figure.
I was going to say Cypher / Patriot / Zero, whatever you want to call it, really are good at manipulating snakes.
That's their goal, man. That's just the way they work. And coming on Colonel Campbell, I got downvoted to hell the other day for saying Colonel Campbell is a Patriot stooge. Somebody didn't like that. But he is. I mean, let's read between the lines with Colonel Campbell again. What happens when Zero, in Portable Ops, Zero tries to instigate a coup in a US base? And we find out that Zero's been charged for treason for instigating a coup, and Solid Snake gets arrested as well. So Snake goes in to clear his and Zero's name because they didn't start a coup, except they did. Well, Zero did the whole time. He used his gene to instigate a coup. So he's rightfully being charged with treason, and yet suddenly this Green Beret unit show up, and one guy happens to survive, and he's too injured to fight, but he can go back to base and help build a unit. And is just slowly helping Snake put together a unit to help clear Zero's name. And who is that guy? It's good old Roy Campbell. So that's always been my little theory there. Campbell was a full-on bloody Patriot stooge, and he always has been. Which is why I love that microwave scene, because even though the models aren't as advanced, you can see it's heartbreaking, because I think he does kind of, respect Snake and consider him a friend. And
I think
he sees what Snake's going through, and he's had a lot to play played a big part in the whole history of it there. But now I'm just talking full-on fan fiction territory.
No, I mean, I think there is something to that too, though. I mean, everywhere you turn, whereas the Patriots, you're going to see the face of Roy Campbell. I mean, he's always there. He's always involved somehow. But I think that you're right that he still does respect Snake and count him as a friend. I mean, I don't think he likes doing the things that he does for the Patriots. He's kind of forced into it, but I really do think that there is a pretty good bond between Campbell and Snake.
I mean, he may not even be aware that the Patriots are a thing, but I think he is aware that his job is to manipulate Snake and just do whatever it takes to make Snake, to give the orders to Snake, and because Snake will follow his orders.
Do you think that Campbell was originally going to be in the shoes of Kaz for Peace Walker and MGS5?
Oh, I couldn't guess. That fits perfectly, and this discussion, I keep hearing it being repeated that Kojima did not want to. He basically retired Campbell as a character out of respect for his voice actor. So I don't know if that's true or not. I assume it is. It seems like a weird thing to just make up. So yeah, quite possibly Campbell could have gone through. It could be a very different story. But that said, of all the people to replace him with, Kaz was a brilliant choice.
It was brilliant and very surprising because I think it was today I saw it where someone was saying that it's odd that Miller, out of all the characters, who was a nobody in MG2, you could probably get through almost the whole game without hardly talking to him, and then in MGS1 he is already dead at that point.
Exactly, so you can get away with anything. He's a familiar character, you can play on that, but at the same time, any inconsistency can pretty much be explained away by the fact that it wasn't actually Cars, it was Liquid. They can get a lot of mileage out of that while still developing a familiar character retroactively, which is just great in terms of just taking opportunities for writing. He's a fantastic choice.
I think so too. I can't control my excitement for this game anymore. I mean, we're so close just to see everything. And, I think Kaz is actually getting some really good character development.
Yes, he seems a bit desperate.
He does.
We've gone way off the Big Boss versus Solid Snake topic, but yeah, he seems very desperate. He's like, boss, we're better attack, but we can get revenge. Can we do it? Please. He's constantly begging boss to be able to go and do, go kick a puppy. Like, oh, boss, we've got these puppies. We can beat them up. Give us the okay, and we're going to go and kill these puppies with a Jane Grey or something like that. Yeah, it seems he seems to have lost status as a character, which is interesting. He's asserting himself more, and it's kind of actually undermining him. He seems desperate and a little, I can't think of a good word for it.
Pissy? He seems pissy to me.
He seems pissy. He seems to have kind of lost his cool.
Yeah, gone are the days of, hey, boss, let's install a daycare for all the soldiers with children. Like, okay, and you turn around and I'm gonna beat this kid with my fucking crutch.
Yeah, I think he took the betrayal very personally. He obviously, most of it's his fault.
Yes, I'd say an overwhelming amount of it is his fault.
Yeah, what's to say? He set the whole thing up, and he kind of became under the sway of Big Boss a lot more, possibly. And then broke his ties with Cypher, we're led to believe. Well, no, he didn't break his ties with Cypher.
That's right, he was on the phone call.
I saw on the phone call, and he just said, yeah, I'm still with you. And then suddenly Skullface is being thrown at them to take them down. And I guess we're still under the assumption that Zero awarded that, but maybe there's more to it. But we won't go into that. So getting back to who's better, Big Boss or Snake? I don't know. Any other angles you want to look at that about?
I mean, it's hard to say skill-wise if you want to look at it from that angle. I mean, I get that Solid Snake defeated Big Boss twice, but Solid Snake was also in his complete prime at the time. But
yeah, I don't really care about who would win. There's a million freaking variables.
Character-wise, it's hard to say.
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, you mean like interesting? Like what's I guess.
Oh no, I mean who would win in a fight between Big Boss or Solid Snake? Like it's a pretty boring question to me.
Oh no, yeah, me too. Like when you ask me, do you mean like as a character or like?
Oh, okay. Well, who is your favorite? Like, that's not to say the best or whatever, but just personally, who's your favorite between Big Boss and Solid Snake?
I enjoy watching the story of Big Boss more, but my favorite's got to be Solid Snake, just because of how much I grew up with him as a character, probably.
Yeah, I'm forced to agree. There's a lot I like about him as a character. I love him as the way he's written, like how he speaks to the bigger ideas behind the games. He's just a whole barrel of fun. Even when he's an old man, he kind of embraces it.
Oh, for sure. He's joking around, making all of his dark jokes the whole time. Oh, I guess I gotta die somehow.
Yeah. Guess I've got a consuming cancer, huh? Yeah. It's like, oh, suicide job. Sounds like the perfect job for me. Get it? Because I'm nearly dead. And everyone else is just like crossing back and forth between you asshole and I can't believe you're joking about this.
This is extremely awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yes, CODEC's my favorite. And I like that his story's done. You can put this one on throwback theory. I like that we'll never see Solid Snake again. It ended well. I like all this stuff. Really, this discussion should wait until we've played Phantom Pain.
Yeah, you never know.
There's a 1,000 different ways that they can go from, well, not A to B anymore, from D to E, to go from the big boss that we kind of know at the moment to the big boss who starts Out of Heaven in Metal Gear.
Which is very exciting, and we're definitely going to see Outer Heaven, I think, especially with the line from the last trailer of Kaz saying to Big Boss, there's only two choices, heaven or hell, and Big Boss says, no, there's another.
Yeah, he calls it Hellven. That's the third choices. It's right in between heaven and hell. No, yes and no, because the concept's been around a bit now, eh?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't...
Like, people call it Out of Heaven. Clearly, Out of Heaven is not just a place, it's the concept.
Exactly.
So I think for all intents and purposes, Mother Base is Out of Heaven, as of, including Ground Zeroes. At the same time, we've seen logos, Out of Heaven has a patch. It has all this other stuff going on. So there's more to the story of what constitutes the idea of Out of Heaven, and okay, now I'm building a nuclear state.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they pull it off, and we're so close.
Do you think... Okay, this is a random idea. Let's say you finish a mission near the end of the game, or maybe you finish the end of the game, and then you unlock a whole bunch of emblem options, including all the Out of Heaven skulls.
Ooh, I can see that. I would not be surprised if that was end-game content, like, at all. That would not surprise me.
That'd be pretty cool.
I'm almost expecting it now.
All right, you can hold me to it.
All right, I think we're about running out of time on this one.
Yeah, there was a bit of a low-key chat this week, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that a lot. I think that was one of the good ones.
Yeah, apologies to everybody who had to sit through Assassin's Creed. It's probably a bit early to say this now, but I will put a timestamp on the YouTube description or something like that. Or I will... here's what I'll do. I'm going to record a thing. Hi, everybody. We just thought of this after the recording, but if you want to skip the Assassin's Creed stuff, I understand if you would. The timestamp is... Oh, shit, I don't actually know what it is. I will do something.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll hope to catch you on the next episode. We are on iTunes and YouTube. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you later.
Good evening, everybody.
Thanks again, Flash.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you later.